Hello, and welcome to another fully live episode of Hacking with Friends. My name is Kody KIlian. I am a security researcher at Varonis, and today I have my good friend and fellow hacker, Kilian, on to talk about the security news of the week. Kilian, thank you for joining us again after your
Yeah,
deeply missed absence during the conference.
I am so bummed. I can't even tell you. Like, uh, I'm still so frustrated that I couldn't get out there. I mean, I know we talked about it in the lead up, and I had my boost up, but I had sort of scheduled my whole event around like getting to hang out with you and do some filming and just everything else. And man, I am bummed, and I'm bummed I missed the event too. To be honest, there's a lot of cool stuff I was looking forward to. Um, so thanks, weather.
It was a hurricane, right?
I didn't even get the hurricane. I got like other like thunderstorms, and they're like, "Oh, we're just gonna fly you around that," and then they're like, "Oh, actually, there's a hurricane down there, so never mind."
So if anybody is wondering why, sorry, my audio might be going in and out. If anybody's wondering why we started a little late today, we were betrayed by our casting service. So if you want to know how we do this behind the scenes, we use a service called Restream, which allows us to stream to all the various platforms. And today they were so excited to push out this update with all these new features, most of which include an inscrutable user interface. We got the pleasure of being the beta testers with no option of going back. So immediately we had to figure out where everything was, and let's just say it was not intuitive. So if we have a wonky title today, if perhaps we're not streaming to everything, there's a bunch of red lights on the dashboard. Don't know what they mean. I just hit the button. We got to go live. So we used to do this via OBS, and we would be streaming directly to all these platforms, and if anything went wrong, like, we had to freak out to fix it, and our very unstable production computer would sometimes just crash. So we thought it would be better to use a remote server, but sometimes that's not always an advantage. So if you're wondering why we had this random silky background today, it's because this is a new default template and we don't know how to turn it off because it was just applied. So anyway, enjoy the new aesthetic. It's kind of nice. It's kind of relaxing. It's not like our usual thing, but I can't object to it too much. I guess like there are other backgrounds I can switch to. Let's see this one.
just while you're doing that, Kody.
There we go. That's more normal. Sorry. I fixed it, everyone. It was not that hard. It just took some time.
It sounds like your voice is all garbled up according to the chat. Also, I appreciate being called Heisenberg. I can live with that nickname. I'll get a pork pie hat.
How about this? I have switched to a different microphone.
There we go. That's better.
If that's any better. Okay, cool. Oh, yeah, sorry about that. All right. I was trying to make my voice anonymous, but it's by far too late. If that works well. Hey, 8-Bit Oni, I got to actually meet one of our good people in the chat that we see almost every week. It was really cool to meet you at the workshop that I did. So I got to meet all of my friends and then some new friends, and I was just like sweating and like running around doing stuff and like managing a very large space. So everybody that saw me got to see how crazy it was at DEF CON this year. And Kilian, I wish you were there because in part you have gotten this cool and controversial badge.
Ooh. I know we've been talking about. I know you've been in development for these for a while and been iterating. And do you have something to show us about how it works and what it does and why is it controversial? I'm going to take us off the rails today.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, my little team of artists and hackers has been working on a design which looks eerily similar to this. So I have to say, it was pretty crazy to see that DEF CON made a badge that was actually almost the exact same shape as the badge that we've been working on, and it actually has the same screen. So this was the DEF CON badge that you get when you enter the conference, and mine's yellowish orange because I was part of a village, IoT village to be specific. But my team also made this badge for that event that came in yesterday, just a little bit too late. So we're going to be using that badge at different events. We're going to coordinate with IoT Village and see like where they're going to go next, and maybe if they want to use our cool LoRa badges. But our badges are going to be LoRa Meshtastic communication badges that have at least three of the classes that I taught at DEF CON are going to be applicable to that. So learning how to use it to like attach sensors to a large mesh network, or learning how to use Meshtastic to do all sorts of cool encrypted meshing technology stuff. So I would say the fact that these core chips have got down to like $4 each really opens up the possibilities for LoRa and Meshtastic. So if you haven't used it before, you should check it out, because I would rank it among Wi-Fi and Bluetooth as one of my favorite protocols that is kind of taking off and finding a lot of applications. So
nice,
super cool.
That's exciting. Now, before we change subjects, were you at Hope as well? Did you?
Sure
were
was.
You out there?
I got COVID at Hope. I will never forget how sick I got at this Hope. But aside from that memory, yes, Hope was hot, sweaty, and we met almost 200 people at Hope, which was pretty incredible.
I haven't been to one of those since probably 2000. Heck, when the heck was it? 2008, 2010, maybe, something like that. When it was still at the Hotel Pennsylvania in New York, before I don't know where it's at now. Where is it at now anyway? Or where was it, I should say?
So now Hope is held at St. John's University in Queens, New York. And it's like, location is super confusing because it's like in a complex that you have to kind of spiral around from where they drop you off at the Uber. So if you follow people around, it creates that like ants, like death spiral, where there's just people who don't know what they're doing, creating loops around buildings and people following them because they think that they know what's going on.
Right.
So the venue was a little bit interesting because of that, but it was beautiful. Like St. John's University has a beautiful campus. Queens has a lot of personality when you're staying there. Like you definitely see the side of New York that like you wouldn't see if you were just, for example, we went to some Varonis meetings in like Midtown Manhattan, and that's like very different from Queens. So getting to see a little bit more of the city was really cool, and the conference itself was just very vibrant. Although the stress level was a little high. I think it was the humidity, honestly. Everybody was hot and humid, but at DEF CON, everybody was very chill and very relaxed, and we saw more people, but we had fewer people get mad at us for stuff. But you know, we taught workshops for like 200 and I think like 220 or two or more, something like that, people at DEF CON, and we didn't have any issues. Like we did a couple things where like people weren't happy with the results. We just gave them like a new one when they were doing soldering workshops or something. But like aside from that, everybody was happy. At Hope, we had a group of people buy out the whole workshop and then expect us to kick out other people that had bought the workshop but one had already been seated, and it caused a whole conflict and they started fighting. And it was like, I just remember the stress of that conference was like attendees like clamoring to take our classes and then like arguing amongst each other and then turning to us to make the decision to be the bad guy. And I was like, I don't want it. Like the stress is crazy.
In demand, you know, you could spin this. You know, there's a political spin to this. You were so in demand. People were literally fighting, you know, to be in your class.
Well,
put that on your LinkedIn.
The booth was crazy. And as a little inside scoop, I was when I got to DEF CON from Black Hat, which was insane. And I still have to catch you up on that, Kilian. But we produced all this content at Black Hat. And then I got to DEF CON already burned out. And my team was there. A lot of like faces that people know from like the like Nullbyte and Hack5 channel. And they'd set everything up except for this big old tent, which I like hang signs on and stuff so people could see us. And they were like, it is so ugly. Like nobody else has a tent. Like, let's just like not use it. And it's just like executive decision. We're doing the tent. So we pop up the tent. And then sure enough, like halfway through the conference, we became known as the tent people. Like, oh, just go talk to the tent, because we were the only visible thing way off in the back. But we had a huge crowd around us the whole time because people wanted to know, like, what do you like? Why are all these other people here? Like, what is this class? Like Wi-Fi self-defense. That sounds cool. So getting to reach out to so many people at DEF CON was crazy, Kilian. And I got to have amazing conversations. I got to meet some people with like wild jobs. And I think one of the cool things about DEF CON is you get to see people in all different reaches of the industry, you know, doing like incredible things that you barely knew was possible or a paying job. So getting to hear some feedback from some of the people I met, some people connected with me on LinkedIn after, other people have followed the stream and might be with us now. Yeah, it was just incredible to meet everyone. And I really, really enjoyed it.
That's awesome. Now, I don't know if you had this in your plan for today or if I'm late to the game. I heard rumors, and I didn't get to see them, obviously, that we were supposed to have some awesome stickers at the Varonis booth and in the conference. Like, tell me about the sticker game. Like what was going on? What did you find?
Yes. Okay, so Varonis had some really good stickers. We're actually coming out with a competition video for 2 different classes. One of them is the new Varonis stickers, of which I think the securityfwd stickers deserve like a very solid vote. As soon as that comes out, I'm going to link it, and I expect all of you to spam it with votes for the securityfwd stickers. So when I had a meeting with the people who are helping to make the stickers, and I said that this where is it? This cool guy Veronis sticker was one of my favorite ones that they produced, and they made these really cool kind of like hacker, like vaporwave kind of like stickers that have, I don't know, I just really like it. It came out exactly the way I was hoping. And they have the hacking with friends stickers, which I honestly like more. Like that's the name of the show, not the name of the channel, but I like that of the two better. So I've got all these hacking with friends stickers, and I've been using them as business cards, just giving them out every time I talk to someone. So yeah, no, those stickers were the best. But of course, we have some Verna stickers. We had some really good glow-in-the-dark VRNS stickers that look really cool and very like official. We had like a little rocket ship sticker, and then we had a like a little stats card like sticker. And that one I understood the least because it has like it has like a very high like retreat cost, and like I don't know what that means. But then again, I don't collect cards, so like that's probably on me. But those were really good. And then you'll have to stay tuned to see the federal stickers, because the NSA, CISA, and Rewards for Justice all contributed some pretty good designs this year.
Very cool. Now I'm bummed I missed it because I saw some of the designs of that stuff, and I know you always show it off. And I was curious what cool stuff you found at this time, because I feel like people are going bigger and bigger, and this is like gaining momentum.
Yeah, no, and honestly, afterwards, I connected with some people at CISA and Rewards for Justice. Was like, hey, like, do you guys want to make like your own little like add-on board, like some other people have that plugs into the main conference badge, that like lights up or something and like does a thing? Because like they really seem to be leaning into the fact that, okay, if I make a delightful item, even if it is just a sticker or a single cheap little PCB, it really attracts a ton of attention. Maybe gets people to sign up for our newsletter, or you know, whatever it is you want them to do. Like it's a lot easier to get them to do that if you have something like delightful. So it was cool seeing how many different federal agencies have embraced that. And then I don't know if I should do, Kilian, do you like Star Trek?
I do, but I'm like a casual fan. I've probably seen like most of, if not the entire run of like The Next Generation, like just because it's been on TV for 40 years.
Okay, I'm gonna hold this up as best I can. Do you reckon it's gonna be really hard, but do you recognize at all what this object is supposed to look like? You kind of, yeah, there you go. Thank you.
I mean, I kind of feel like my gut says like I want to say like a tricorder or something like that. But I'm not sure.
That's it. Okay, cool. Yeah. So this was made by my friend Make It Hacken, and it is one of the first times that I've seen this color process applied to a PCB. So this is called a simple add-on. Some people call it a something else add-on, but it's designed to plug into the main conference badge or other third-party badges and let you kind of make something cool and delightful at a very low cost. In this case, it's just doing blinky stuff, but it's doing it in a way that replicates the original tricorder. So yeah, came out really, really cool. All right. So I wanted to go also through, Kilian, were you around with me when I did my last cloud security bit, or was that something that I did on the Wednesday stream?
I think it was a Wednesday stream thing, because I remember we talked about it, but I don't think I was there. So I think it was the Wednesday stream. I'm getting old and I forget things.
It was a while ago too, because we had the CrowdStrike thing that you know caused like a shutdown, and I didn't do a stream that week. I had Hope and travel, and then I had COVID, plus the 2 weeks. Well, no, I guess it was a week and a half of being at conferences. So it's been a while actually since things have been normal over on the Security Forward channel. We usually have videos coming out all the time, and it's been a little bit of a desert over here while I have attended all these conferences and been getting better from getting sick with COVID for the first time. I ran, but I couldn't run forever. So, all right, so let's go through, and I want to talk a little bit about permissions in cloud security. And this is because we cover all of these different data breaches all the time on the news stream. And I wanted to quickly go over, like, what does this actually look like on the back end? Because being someone who reports on this all the time and being someone who talks about cloud security, I wanted to know exactly how are these things misconfigured? How are people finding entire like buckets of data open and available that shouldn't be there? So last time we talked about IAM, or Identity and Access Management in AWS. And if we go over to my screen, we can see a different type of permissions. So Kilian, you are much more adjacent to this sort of thing than I was. And I found out about a lot of this stuff relatively recently when I did a deeper dive on the way that kind of configurations can be like messed up and data can be exposed. you and I talked about this a little bit earlier, and I kind of liked your definition. Do you remember what you said about the difference between IAM policies and then these sort of like bucket-based policies that we're going to cover today?
Yeah, the way that I like to think about it is like, so like on the bucket, you have policies assigned to a resource, and then you can control some level of access to that, like based on certain criteria. Now, let's like just assuming that the user we're talking about is like an internal user to the organization. They can have one or more policies coming from like the account or like as a member of a group that give them some type of rights, to it can be a bucket, but it could be other things too. And then you have like an IAM policy. And the way I sort of think about it is kind of like a role. Role is the actual name of it, but it's something that you can sort of assume as like a user coming in to get some level of access or behavior assigned to it. So like if you're, an external account, for example, and you need to connect to something, you can come in as that external account, assume the role that gives you access to a resource to do things. But in addition to all of this, you can configure like a bucket or resource policy to allow unauthenticated access as well on the resource. So you can put that star in the JSON, and Amazon actually has some pretty good controls to prevent you from doing it accidentally, but like you can still do it. But it's you kind of user or resource based is the way I think about it. And I'm not. Hopefully somebody is watching this and can fact check me.
No, that all sounded good. I mean, because again, I'm fact checking you as a recent beginner as well, and that all sounds accurate. So if we go over to my screen, I have the IAM panel pulled up on my personal AWS account, which does nothing. It is purely for me to research on. So there's different things you can do with what we talked about last week, or whichever time was the last stream, which was talking about how we could create these user groups, and these users and user groups could be used to either temporarily or conditionally assign access to users to different resources, or to applications like virtual machines that are running and need to access like a data storage bin. That can all be managed from these policies. Now, there are some drawbacks though to using these policies, and sometimes people want to get more granular, and we can have something that we want to manage like an S3 bucket, and this is basically just a bucket to put all your data in. This could be all sorts of data, but it's basically something for you to put data in. It's a data storage bin, and the idea is other applications or users can programmatically access this, or you could even do things like host a static site off of it by allowing public access, public read access to this. So policies can be either written as IAM or IAM. What's the right way to say it, Kilian? You talk about this a lot more than I do.
IAM? Is that what you're saying?
IAM. Okay, cool. Or it can be tied to the individual bucket. So if somebody's going to make a mistake, it's going to be in one of these JSON style. Well, it's not JSON style. It is JSON policies that makes a certain statement about who can do what with this resource. Now, these are pinned to the actual bucket itself. And what's cool about these is that they can be substantially longer. I think it's like 3 or 4 times longer than the same thing as a IAM policy. So if you have like a lot more granular permissions you want to do, or if you want to assign broad access to a resource like this, then you would write one of these JSON policies that basically takes care of that. So Kilian, can you tell what this policy that I've applied to my AWS bucket does or is supposed to do?
All right. So the effect is, it looks like it's a deny statement. So what you're saying is restrict to TLS requests only. Effect deny. Okay, interesting. So it's on an S3 bucket. And then the resource is, okay, my Varonis condition. So the condition is secure transport is false. So I'm guessing just by the way this is written, it's saying if you try and connect without security, it's going to deny it. You're going to deny connection to the bucket. Is that what I'm reading?
Yeah, that's it. See. These are designed to be human readable, which I think is cool. So like in one of these policies, we have like the version, the statement, we have the SSN. So in this case, it's saying that it's restrict to TLS requests only. So it's giving us a clue to what this is doing. The effect is, like you said, to deny. Now, this has an implicit deny. So unless otherwise specified, something will always automatically deny. So you can allow specific things, but an explicit deny that says like, effectively like this applies to everything.
Yep.
This will always come out on top. This will always override any allow if there's an explicit deny in place. So you can, so by default, you have an implicit deny that doesn't give anybody any permissions unless it's granted, and then you can apply permissions. But if one of these explicit denies hits it, then none of that matters because this is counted as the most important out of all. So then we have an action. So in this case, S3 star, that basically says any action that you can possibly take on this S3 bucket. And then we have a resource. In this case, this is my Varonis, and it goes so far as to give me, I think at the top of the page, like somewhere on here, what my particular resource information is. So then we have finally a bool that says if AWS secure transit is false. So in this case, that means if this is an HTTP and not an HTTPS request, then deny the connection. So by applying this policy to my bucket, then I basically say I'm going to deny all insecure traffic like through this bucket and make sure that like nothing is able to go through. So there's other ones that I think are kind of useful to know about that are involved in security and might be something where if they were wrong, a hacker could take advantage of this. So do I have edit access here? I don't. All right, I'll have to edit that. All right, so let's say I wanted to set a different policy. And let me set a different one. I'm going to save the changes. Whoa. Oh, it has an invalid resource. Oh, right. I didn't change it from the default. Okay. Well, I'm not going to apply this then. Instead, I'm just going to use this as our example. Can I hide this more? Ugh. All right. So, Kilian, can you see, can you try to guess what this one is going to attempt to do?
So it looks like, just based on it, multi-factor authentication. So it looks like, and the action is delete object. So you can't delete an object. It will prevent you from deleting an object unless you have completed a multi-factor authentication challenge and response.
Exactly.
More or less
exactly. That's it. Yes. So this says, all right, I've identified a risky action, and I want to be able to prevent somebody from deleting it unless they have signed in with two-factor authentication.
Right.
So these are the kinds of security policies that are used to lock down these buckets, and a lot of them come kind of cookie cutter and default from like Amazon itself. So there's a lot of these templates that can be applied. So if you're looking to get into cloud security, two of the fundamental things you need to know about are these specific policies that are applied to a bucket or a resource, and then these more general IAM policies, which are applied to multiple resources. They could be applied to a bucket, but they don't allow for as much information to be put into the policy. So if you want to get more granular, or if you want to apply kind of broad access to a bucket, like again, like a static website or something like that, then you can certainly do that with a bucket-based policy. So these are the two most popular methods through which cloud resources are secured on the inside. When you're creating one of these resources, these policies kind of govern that. So if you're curious about cloud security, if you want to get more serious about learning how maybe these might be misconfigured or how you could detect misconfigurations, then this is a great place to start. And creating your own AWS account, creating a bucket, making some policies, and then attempting to access the files you upload and seeing what happens. This is all a really great way to try out some of these JSON statements which govern who can access which resources and trying it out for yourself. So I learned all of this very recently, especially with all of the conferences that have been going on. I only got to really practice this a couple of times, but it was still really cool. Right. I enjoyed it. So if you're curious about cloud security, that's where I would get started. And now, without further ado, we have a bunch of news to get to.
All right.
Shall we get to the very first one, which is front page news on multiple outlets? We do our section where we say who's getting free credit monitoring. And in this case, it is everyone.
Hooray!
Congratulations, everyone. Hooray. So that's actually maybe not even true. It seems like they might just be warning everyone that it's time to put in a credit freeze and putting the onus of doing that on consumers. Now, obviously, that also is inconvenient because it means you have to unfreeze your credit or unlock it every time that you want to do any sort of action, like get like a I don't know, like a credit card or whatever else.
Right.
But at the same time, I guess everybody should learn how to do this at this point. So I'm grumbling about it because I don't think that it should be the consumer's responsibility to teach, like, you know, their grandparents and like everybody else who's not going to take this seriously how to do it. I think the majority of Americans probably won't do this because like it's just not easy enough for them.
No,
and I have to say the current process for doing this, according to these news outlets, is to sign up for an account at all of these different credit agencies and then lock your credit account via like 3 separate agencies, at least 3 separate agencies. So that is not very convenient. Like if at the very least the government forced them to make a portal so people affected by this could like just put in their information and get opted out on all 3, I think that would be at least like a way of mitigating the disaster of scams that's going to cost Americans like a lot of money over the coming weeks and months as this leaked information starts to translate into real fraud. So the fact that all this data was harvested from government documents, this company apparently was hoovering down all this information from local and federal documents that were filed that included sensitive information. So by tuning into this source of public information, they built a vast database of Americans' information as they filed the necessary information to live in society. This is pretty unfortunate that this information was allowed to be collected in the first place, but there are no laws or consequences to this in the United States. Whereas in the European Union, at least there are some laws about like, I don't know, like notifying people. Here in the United States, that's literally seen as a courtesy. So it's basically up to you to respond to this crisis, which I still am kind of in disbelief. So you'll find a lot of news articles talk about how to freeze your credit. I imagine that the credit freezing services are going to be under heavy load for the next foreseeable future. So be aware that this breach involves you. If you are an American, then it's very, very likely that some of these front page news stories are not making it up when they say that your information is probably included in this. Now, in the Bleeping Computer article, which goes a lot further than most of these, there are some additional details that are interesting here. Not only the source of the information, but also the, there's so much. I lost my train of thought. Sorry, all this information here distracted me. All right, so there's the class action suits. I
think, I believe that Have I Been Pwned also said that it's possible that some of this data might be inaccurate as well.
That's it. Yes, it's old. It's old. Okay, thank you so much, Kilian. So yes, that's what I was trying to remember. Somewhere in this Have I Been? Oh yeah, actually right here. They do mention that when they looked up the information in the leak, they weren't able to find the current address of most of the people that they tried. It was information that was old. So again, this was probably pulled from old voter information or other public data that was filed that included sensitive information that this company basically paid for or was able to monitor and access. So there's tons of businesses in the United States that monetize Americans' information, and this is the consequence of that. Until we get some actual legislation around the way that this data is kept, or at the very least, like how people are notified when their information is breached in this sort of way. Like at this point, it's basically, again, a courtesy, and they expect you to like kind of read this on the news. So for vulnerable people, like this is kind of the worst way to find out.
So I think I've said it every single time that we've had one of these streams. If you're a U.S. citizen, call your congressman, call your senator, tell them to take the GDPR, get a crayon out, scribble off European Union and write USA on it and submit that, because this is just getting silly at this point. I mean, it's ridiculous.
So congratulations to everybody on the stream for your free credit monitoring.
I guess I'll go off in like a 1-second rant there, but like, who cares about free credit monitoring? Like, you can cancel a credit card. I don't care. That's somebody else's money and their problem. Like, somebody's going to steal your identity and then, like, I don't know, get a fake driver's license or something. Like, oh, that kills me.
Yeah. No, it really does shift the burden to the consumer more and more and more. And that's why I hate to see these stories, because the affected individuals are the most vulnerable, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So I'm just going to like very, very quick. I didn't know that the 32 partition size limit was arbitrary. I'm sorry.
I didn't realize either. That's
Yeah,
great.
so
That's
Windows
hilarious.
just decided that all of a sudden the FAT32 file system could just be 2 terabytes. So apparently it was, and I apologize for my ignorance, but like when formatting on a Windows system, I just assumed that like that was their file system and they just got to decide the partition limit because that was like
Right.
all that we could handle. And the it would fragment and destroy itself beyond a certain limit. I don't know. They're the experts, So learning that they just arbitrarily set that limit is crazy and upsetting to me. But apparently it's always been possible to create larger volumes on other operating systems, and Windows could still read them. It itself was just limited. Now, the command line way of doing this is still limited to the arbitrary old 32 gigabyte limit, but it seems like at least like some ways of formatting new drives will allow you to do up to 2 terabytes with FAT32, which is again very useful for certain types of peripherals, cameras, like other things that require that file system in order to record data. So I'm upset about this, but I'm going to move on. All right, so this was a new example of a bring your own vulnerable driver attack. And this was an attack against endpoint detection. And it was just notable because it was an example of a popular technique that is actively under development and currently ongoing. I don't have a ton to add about this one.
No.
Press for time. I'm going to go on to stuff that is more cool and interesting. All right, so this is truly unfortunate. And I just want to go through this because it's continued fallout from the whole CrowdStrike thing like weeks ago. So a lot of people have to go through BitLocker in order to fix this. And there was a security vulnerability that had a fix that came out. So people who are still trying to like wade through the situation have found themselves having that rolled back by Windows after, or Microsoft, after they found that there was some problems with the firmware binaries compatibility. So as a result, people now have to manually go back and try to fix this with I think it was like a 5-step process that involves restarting the computer at least 3 times. So truly unfortunate that one of these BitLocker updates caused a situation where people already trying to recover from the CrowdStrike situation now have a applied update that has been rolled back and a manual fix that is a pain to implement.
Yeah. I'm not sure I understand this comment. Oh man, the dude with the eyes. Later, y'all. Am I the dude with the eyes? Are you the dude with the eyes?
Yeah. I don't blink.
Okay,
That's
what's
me.
this?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I'm Null, aka no blink guy.
Now I've learned something. Because I figure, I think all people have eyes, generally speaking. But
this is true.
The eyes. The definite article.
So in we'll just a little blurb here. We have a Russian who is selling stolen credentials, getting 40 months in prison. They were extradited to the United States and eventually pleaded guilty, selling credentials on and personally identifiable information on an illegal marketplace. Now, this is kind of the illegal, or rather initial access broker marketplace here, where people will pay for credentials or pay for the ability to log into people's accounts to then commit much more valuable actions. So this is kind of like an internal cybercrime thing where like if people can harvest credentials in any way, shape, or form, they can turn around and sell that access as an initial access broker to more serious cybercrime gangs who want to take the more flashy and potentially more dangerous steps of actually attacking those targets rather than just gathering their credentials. So there's room for everybody in cybercrime, but apparently there's also room for everybody in federal prison. Yeah,
I don't remember seeing what the specific charges were for him. Was that, maybe I just missed it in the article? Because I'm just curious what the specific charges would be.
Bank fraud, access fraud, aggravated identity theft.
Okay, that's an interesting set of. Charges.
He didn't actually commit
do anything.
The access, so like Computer Fraud and Abuse Act doesn't exactly apply. So in this case, he received compensation like for those credentials. So that's like bank and wire fraud. Access device fraud means he's selling credentials, so he's selling the ability to commit fraud to these devices. And aggravated identity theft, that's in this case like stealing the ability of probably the personally identifiable information. So Yeah, it's not always the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Like different segments of cybercrime, like will get different charges. And it was interesting to see the length of the charges here. And again, this is somebody who's not actually breaking into devices themselves. They're actually enabling other people to do that at scale. All right, so this was so we just talked about AWS permissions and cloud security, but that's not the only system out there that can leak credentials. So GitHub Actions was apparently leaking authentication tokens in artifacts that could accidentally be uploaded. So these were hidden files that could accidentally be included in version releases, where they included authentication tokens, allowing users to potentially access and modify the pipeline, which could inject something that's not supposed to be there or otherwise cause problems. So I'm not going to go too much into this because it's basically exactly what I just said. But Unit 42 of Palo Alto Networks found this issue and discovered that it was possible for people to accidentally include this information in their project releases, allowing the people who download those releases to possibly modify future releases as though they were part of the project.
Yeah, I feel like I swear we talked about this like a while ago, or like a year ago. This has been an ongoing thing. I know we've talked about the really easy way to abuse, those tokens, and people don't think about them typically when designing a security strategy, mostly. But I feel like this similar type of thing has been going on for a while, maybe with GitHub.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It's GitHub and like GitLab, I think have been the two things that have had recent problems where they've accidentally exposed credentials or had the ability for people to interfere with their pipeline and potentially cause a supply chain attack.
Interesting question. Gaining access to people's devices and doing nothing is a crime.
Yes.
Conspiracy to commit.
No. So no, but yes, but also no. So I would say that gaining access to so let's say that you harvest other people's credentials. You find a way to intercept those credentials in a way where you're not directly committing a crime. Have you committed a crime at that point? It depends. If you don't ever log into those, then I would argue probably not, although it is certainly suspicious. And I think that there are laws that could be bent to go after you by like a zealous prosecutor or somebody who really didn't like you. So if you got unlucky, I think that even doing that could put you in danger. But where this person went wrong was going on the internet and selling it for cryptocurrency at scale, and then having it immediately be used by cyber criminals to commit like large scale attacks, which cause significant damage and possibly targeted critical infrastructure, thus getting the attention of federal authorities. So if you're part of that attack pipeline where like the attackers who do the big damage go to you to buy their access, then arguably you're a critical part of an attack against like the United States of America's critical infrastructure. And that is certainly an uncomfortable place to find yourself.
James is an interesting take. You're never actually doing nothing. Reading is something all by itself. Interesting take. I'm sure somewhere in legal doctrine someone can use that. So
if you're gathering, if you're gathering information that could be used for a cyber attack, it certainly looks like they caught you before you did it, and that would be, I think, an argument that a lot of prosecutors would take in that case, where it like all the signs of an attack here. It's like being found with like a car full of suspicious stuff, or like like having a coat full of like sharp objects at like an event when you go through security. It's just like, okay, like maybe you have a purpose for that, but sure looks suspicious, and like now you have to explain that. So I was
gonna say, in the physical world, depending on where you live, at least in the US, there's sometimes like laws about like implements of crime or possession of implements of crime, where they can charge you, like if you got like a lockpick kit and you get stopped for some reason, like depending on the situation, it could be enough to detain you, or maybe get charged with that as an additive thing, depending on where you live. So I feel like it's something like that, but it depends.
Yeah, be careful out there. If you're doing research that looks suspicious, which I do all the time, just make sure that you're like, for example, one thing I think is very important is publish your work. If you're confident that your work is legal, and if you're doing something you think is interesting, if you publish it, so the intent is clearly stated, then it certainly makes it a lot more defensible when people be like, okay, this person is doing this research, this is the reason behind it, this is their contribution, they are making it publicly available. It's not some sneaky project they're doing in order to do some criminal act. Again, make sure that you're cool with that. But I have made sure that if I'm doing like Wi-Fi research, like I'm publishing my work, just to make sure that what I'm doing doesn't raise any alarm bells. If someone were to ask me like, hey, what is this? Like, you need to show me right now, like what you're working on, because you're in a space that's like restricted, or like you look like you're doing something that could be criminal. I've been kicked out of a workspace that was shared for that, having too many Wi-Fi antennas. All right.
Well, thought crimes are not illegal just yet, but give it time. Someone will figure that one out.
I mean, I definitely fit the description, so I guess I understand. So this was an interesting story. It is now being recommended that encryption designed to resist quantum computing be implemented. They are stressing now. There is some skepticism, as there seems to be kind of limited, fully functional quantum computers, but this is a forward, like future-facing recommendation that the National Institute of Standards and Technology is recommending now. I think a lot of people, I don't know, like are a little suspicious sometimes of like encryption standards like endorsed by the government. But in this case, there is a very real threat of emerging quantum computing. So it's interesting to see, the government agencies are becoming like increasingly strict about what types of standards they're enforcing and what they're trying to get other agencies to adopt.
Couple interesting discussions that I'll bring up. Average Joe, 100% correct. Only being caught committing crime is a crime. I had somebody in law enforcement once tell me long ago, a crime isn't a crime unless somebody reports it. And on the very technical, accurate level, yes, you're not wrong.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. I have nothing else to add on that one.
Yeah.
All right, so this is a story that surprised me just a little bit, because Google is saying that it is privacy focused with its Gemini AI on Android. So they're working very hard to bring AI to all of their various Android devices. And this is hopefully an improvement over some of the stuff they've rushed out. Kilian, I was telling you today that the new Google transcription service like randomly inserts punctuation into everything that I try to transcribe when I'm like doing like speech to text. So Google has rushed out all these like AI services. I'm not sure how great it's going to be, but they are attempting to focus on keeping a lot of things on device, and
I appreciate
doing access control and whatever else of the stuff that is transported off device. Whether or not I trust the company with the information, like when I give it to them, is one thing, but at least it's not being like negligently like held or like exposed in transit. So I guess that that is something. I really don't know how I feel about having AI on my device in particular, but in this case, it's good to see at least somewhat of a privacy mindset being integrated here. It would be a lot more depressing to be like, we've set this up for ads and it's going to advertise to you all the time. Like, it's our business. You don't like it, go somewhere else. You can't, because we've recently been ruled a monopoly by the government. All right. So next up, this hits close to home. So one of the most beautiful places I know is the Kootenai Falls, which is over in northwest Montana and Idaho. And apparently the local health service over there has been hit by a ransomware attack. So, I mean, it seems like health agencies have been hit more and more. It seemed like they were initially off the table, and then recently ransomware actors have decided that they're back on the menu. And this impacted 464,000 patients, which is a massive section of Montana, Idaho, and I think there was one other state involved in this. So this includes full names, date of birth, social security numbers, driver's licenses, government ID numbers, medical record numbers, medical treatment and condition information, medical diagnoses, and health insurance information. I know that a lot of the residents of these area are particularly vulnerable to scams, as there's a lot of elderly people out there and other people who have been involved in like healthcare cases around the mines that used to be out there that caused a lot of like asbestos related problems. So as a result, it is devastating to see that information has been released or at least stolen and is available for sale, because a lot of these people are some of the most vulnerable to scams. So, I mean, I don't say that a lot, but we have a lot of different breaches affecting vulnerable people in this. Oh, look at this. How to prevent AI data breaches. As I was going through all of the Bleeping Computer articles, I saw this one by Varonis.
Yeah. Real quick, though, BK just joined the chat. Can someone update me on the free credit monitoring? Well, if you're a U.S. citizen, you should probably have it already or get some, because chances are your stuff's been leaked. I don't mean to be flippant, but like all you can do is laugh in this situation where it's like, everybody in the US, you're done for, you're toast.
Yeah, so at this point, there has been a massive leak of social security numbers. Basically, everybody's included in it. So as a result, you can expect ongoing action. There's class action lawsuits going on. There's all sorts of chaos going on around this. And you can expect to maybe be offered free credit monitoring in the near future if you haven't already gotten it in some other data breach. There's no real duty to monitor you in the United States. So if you are upset about the fact that your most personal information has now been leaked online by a company who is monitoring court and other legal documents to build a profile on you, then perhaps we should get some data security laws that make it so companies can't just hoard massive amounts of data to just process arbitrarily in ways that are not secure. Or at least that there are some consequences when they do leak, I don't know, every US citizen's personal information, exposing them directly to scams. So this information has been, again, breached directly on the internet. It's been leaked. So while it doesn't include the most recent information, it includes enough critical information to be a real problem. All right, so speaking of that, speaking of data privacy laws, X is facing multiple GDPR complaints for unauthorized use of data to train Grok, their AI. So we reported recently that they flipped the switch quietly and made it so that everybody's Twitter data was being used to power their new AI. And they did this without asking for permission, and you had to go through some settings in order to disable it. We showed how to do that on a previous stream. But this happened, again, without anybody really knowing, and now a European privacy advocate called None of Your Business filed 9 GDPR complaints against X on behalf of 60 million users in Europe whose data was used to train Grok without authorization.
Hey, wouldn't it be nice, if in the United States we could file a lawsuit about that type of thing if we had data protection laws? Just saying.
It sure would be nice to have something more than my 35th free credit monitoring subscription.
Right.
Sometimes from the very company who lose my data in the first place.
Yes.
All right. So next up, we have a spy campaign which yielded access to technical information on the military of South Korea. So North Korean spies were able to gain access to information about tanks and spy planes. Apparently, the tank information was taken itself by a contractor who by an engineer who went to a competitor. So they took the information in order to bring it to the competitor, and then the information was also offered for sale to a Middle Eastern country. So a lot of stuff going on in this one. If you want to see the best or most interesting cyber spy story of the week, then I recommend digging into the details of this one, because it was pretty crazy, and a lot of spy plane information here was compromised that could give North Korea a battlefield advantage in hiding their material and being able to operate in a way that is impossible for U.S. spy plane or for South Korean spy planes to detect. Signal has recently been blocked in Russia for violating anti-terrorism laws. There are ways of circumventing this, and Signal has put out recommendations on how to do so, but it is a notable step in that a lot of different messengers have been blocked in Russia recently, Signal being the most recent one to be officially blocked all the way around the country. And then we're almost done. Sorry, I know we started a little early and then also a little bit late today. So speaking of North Korea, we have an ongoing effort to dismantle laptop farms and false employment enablement of these North Korean agents in the United States. So we had earlier, I believe it was a woman who was running a laptop farm that allowed them to have a physical presence here in the US. And then apparently there was another person, where were they? In Nashville.
Tennessee, I think.
Yeah, in Tennessee, who was running another laptop farm and was helping them launder money that was received from employment at various positions. So this is an interesting case because these people are apparently sponsored by the North Korean government to attempt to get these jobs. They have ways of establishing a presence in the United States, and probably imply that they're from some other country that's not North Korea, and then set up with these brokers who create laptop farms, create this physical presence, and then they just basically farm money off of these illegal workers until they get caught. Now, the problem here is these intermediaries are creating anonymous platforms for unverified workers to get jobs. And nation states become interested in this because not only do they get free access to internal information, cybercrime organizations also get the ability to possibly kick off some malware on different devices. And it was actually a cybersecurity company we were talking about a couple of weeks ago who accidentally had somebody they hired end up being a North Korean spy. So this is a major campaign, and a lot of companies have been targeted by it. And the infrastructure here is interesting to see in action because it means that with these brokers who are available to launder the money and set up the infrastructure, it's possible for anybody, including spies, to insert themselves into the US job market. In the old days, you looked for homes using too much power to find illegal pot farms. Now it's laptop farms. Yep, you're likely to find like weird Bitcoin operations and illegal laptop farms now if you fly over with a thermal camera. It's times have really changed. So last up, we have another ironic breach. A company well known for security has itself had its security been breached. This is ADP confirming that it suffered a data breach after threat actors allegedly leaked stolen customer information on a hacking forum. And this is customer orders. So they said that this did not take down their server. So it wasn't like a ransomware attack or something where people's security systems went down and they were vulnerable. No, this was instead information about customers' orders, which ironically does include information about like their address and other sensitive information. However, it did not expose any information about, I guess, like people's security configurations, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying to find the rosy side to this, but it does kind of suck, honestly.
Yeah, totally.
So this is still ongoing. I'm not totally, again, sure the exact information that was leaked here because I myself have not looked for it and it wasn't explicitly stated. But ADT being breached is definitely noteworthy as they have a lot of high-profile customers, just a lot of customers in general. So that's all we have time for on the news this week. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I know that we had a little bit of confusion with the new setup that was thrust upon us by Restream, but I think we got it together pretty well. Hopefully, Kilian, we can get you out to the next conference because there was definitely a hole in our team and a hole in our hearts not having you there. And also, I think on LinkedIn, your joyous smile at getting on the airplane to go to the conference, juxtaposed with your abject disappointment and sadness at being grounded on the airplane for such a long time and then told that you weren't going was heartbreaking. So I'm so sorry that you weren't able to make it, but we did have a good time there. So hopefully we can show you around next time and connect you to some of the cool stuff that we did. All right, everyone. Well, if you want to support the stream, as always, you can go to varonis.com/Kody. That's KODY. Lets everybody at Varonis know that you like the stream and you want to keep it going. And it's a way you can support us without spending anything. Hopefully we see you at another one of these great conferences. Again, it was so cool to get to meet some of you. And frankly, it's one of my favorite parts of the job, getting to go out, meet people who are active on the stream, who have great ideas, and just kind of learning about who else is out there interested in the same stuff. So I'm going to keep working on these cool Meshtastic nodes. I'll have more to report back on those next week. And thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.